and George and the Fun Valley team for having us and inviting us here to speak today. We're very honoured to share the stage with such fantastic speakers, and having sat through some of the talks and checked out people's work. I'm not really sure if we're worthy to be here, but we are, so I'll tell you about our project. Myself and Tom run StoryMap, and basically it's a web-based multimedia package that entertains, educates, but most importantly it personalises the city for people. What we do is we collect stories, and it's basically a collaboration with the people of the city to create an authentic vision of the city, capturing the personality, social history and folk culture of the city and why it's evolved the way it has. We started the project about a year and a half ago. Just kind of happened organically. Both of us were just back in Dublin from living abroad. We were kind of in between jobs and film projects, and we were just getting a bit pissed off with all the doom and gloom surrounding Dublin and the country from all the traditional media. Just the idea that Ireland's best and brightest had left the country and there was nothing left to offer the rest of us, or we had nothing left to offer the city. And that kind of annoyed us, because what we were experiencing being back in the city was a really fun and vibrant city where art in all its forms was flourishing, and it was because funding was limited. Venues had to open their doors to try and get punters in, so there was a beautiful collaborative spirit just throughout the city. And if I was doing something, you know, I could ask somebody to help them out, or help me out, and I'd help them out in turn, and kind of mix lots of different art disciplines and stuff together. So we came up with the idea of StoryMap. So we go around Dublin finding the best stories, either historical stories, personal, literary, ghost. If it's a good story, we'll go and get it. And anybody can give us a story. It's across nationalities, age ranges. Just it has to be a good story, and that's the only criteria we have. We film the stories on location and then integrate it into a Google map. I think currently we have about 77 stories online, which I think is about just over 7 hours of content, and that's ranging from personal stories like 17-year-old girl whose boyfriend faked his own death to break up with her, to the theft of the crown jewels in Dublin Castle, and kind of everything in between. Social, just characters that everybody wanted to know, like Bang Bang, and yeah, it's been a lot of fun just meeting the best kind of people the city has to offer. As well as our website, we've developed a smartphone app that users click on speech bubble and they'll hear a story. As I said earlier, we're collaborating with the people of the city to create an authentic vision of the city. And that was just something that we wanted to create, something that not only tourists would find interesting and would use our website to explore the city and meet the locals, but we wanted to create something that Dubliners themselves would like. And we think that, as that quote before it was cut off, in a cluttered, fragmented media marketplace, relevance, engagement and credibility are all vital when dealing with the consumer. And I think by allowing people to have their own voice of what shapes the city, I think we really hit that. And yeah, we're also developed a StoryMap app, which will be launched in the second week of January, and basically that will link all our stories thematically to create different walking tours, or as we call them, rambles through the city. And basically we see this as a way of empowering the tourists and people who use the app. So if they're doing a historic ramble, they can kind of hop off and using our destination feature. If they're in Fun Valley and they need to get to Trinity College, they just tap in Trinity College and our app will create a route based on our stories. So turning any journey across the city into a walking tour. And yeah, it's the equivalent of 10 walking tours for just €3, so we can't wait to get that on sale. And well, that's kind of a little introduction to what we do and what we've done so far. I'll now pass you on to Tom, we'll play a little video actually of our stories, and then Tom can tell you some of our future plans.
Seems apt that here in the smallest pub in Ireland, the strangest man with the biggest personality plotted a tiny mission with the greatest of ambitions.
And as the Dubliners came onto the beach, so too did these 53 whales.
And those jewels are still missing today. They've never been recovered. There's still a £1,000 reward on offer for their successful recovery. And it's really one of the great unsolved mysteries of 20th century Ireland.
And I had no intention of marrying because I had a child every year. I was like a rabbit.
This sauna was infamous for priests dropping dead a few years beforehand, and amazingly there'd been another priest there to actually give him the last rites.
And I thought I was getting married on Valentine's Day. I really did. I was so smitten. I was just absolutely ecstatic.
And even without looking, I knew it had to be me ma and one of me aunties who, Trinity or no Trinity, and how prickly they were about coming in here, were getting their back up against this priest.
Sort of the horrific story of my first one-night stand.
Nothing could wake him. His power on us beating away, banjos, fiddles, guitars being played, and nothing could wake him at all.
But I'll just take a little memento. So he sliced off Donnelly's right arm.
If I had my life to live over again, I would still fall in love with you.
So yeah, that's kind of an example of the kind of people we meet, and effectively, I suppose what I'm going to talk about is how the people we meet each week have kind of, that's the core thing we do each week, is just going out and meeting people, chatting to them, trying to follow up leads for new stories and taking names and stuff. We kind of think of ourselves as kind of like lame private detectives who are following leads that will never solve any crime. But one of the great things from running this project is that every time we meet people, we tell them about the idea, we tell them in a short kind of 20-second little thing, we go, and it's this lovely moment where the idea kind of hits them, and then they come back at us all the time with, oh, you could do this, you know? I kind of always think of it sort of like when you drop Disprin into water, you know, that just at the moment you communicate the idea, it kind of fizzles into 100 different directions. Most of them are lame, like, I mean, they come up with rubbish, but you know the way people, not you know the way people are. Collaboration's great. No.
Mentals are mentals.
Yes. So basically, it's a fizzy idea. That's what I think about, and that's sort of its greatest strength, which we're hoping to move forward to new collaborations with. And it's those kind of people, and hope to show those meetings have led to a few of the collaborations we're moving on to this year, or in the next year. So it's a contagious idea that kind of sprouts new ones. And that's the start of our collaborations. One of the ways in which we designed StoryMap from the start was so that it could kind of spread out and engage. It's basically, for want of a better word, kind of designed to make babies. It's sort of, we kind of wanted to make little baby story maps. It's really, the app and website package are kind of models that if we wanted to uproot and move to Derry or to Galway, we could just kind of basically take them there, and all we have to do is create the kind of content to feed into that in the database at the end. But the other great thing is that it allows us to kind of explore new avenues. We've kind of created this StoryMap project, but now we've got a kind of the exciting time where we can try and take it in new directions. Kind of all the several different kind of unique takes on the city. So say, for example, the 1916 commemoration is coming up in 2016, or the 2013 kind of lockout commemoration, that we can create individual apps and websites for those, but also that it feeds into this big mother story map, basically, that as it grows and grows is kind of the one key that you need to explore everything in the city. It also allows us to kind of tap into niche demographics. Kind of one we're looking at is kind of like, well, it's actually, the fellow who was talking there about the festivals mentioned forgetting children. We also forgot about children until recently. Well, we just remembered it the other day. We were just speaking with somebody about tourism in Dublin, that the huge problem is kids, that people bring, I mean, families come here, but there's not much for children to do in the city. So creating apps targeted at children around Dublin, but also kind of gay walking tours of kind of interesting spots within kind of gay culture and the history in the city. We're also looking in the future, anyways, down the line, to kind of bring in curators who have a specialist kind of knowledge of an area, who can then create like a little app and website that'll again feed back into our thingy, our big thing. Another kind of aspect to it are satellites. This is another idea that basically we can kind of take the StoryMap and app and website package as a way to kind of engage with the town and kind of get a sense of familiarity or feel like a local in it, and that we can bring these to kind of small or mid-level attractions that don't actually have their own package to engage with tourists. And we can try and, our aim is to kind of sell it to them as a way for them to capitalize in a cost-effective way on a lot of the tourists that come through. Earlier on this year, I was out in Stradbilly just after Electric Picnic, kind of recovering, and the thing that I noticed was there really wasn't anything there to take advantage of this huge wave of people that was coming through, and it was just, nothing had built up to actually just grab them while they were there and keep them there for a short while. One of the kind of things that, one of the kind of fizzy things that popped up, which has led to a new collaboration, is this idea that we were in Grogan's one day and got talking to this old, I think he's the head of the Poetry Association who happened to be there. But he started talking about, as we explained our idea to him, he mentioned this idea of Din Shanachas. Din Shanachas is pretty much exactly what we're doing, but it's the kind of one of the most ancient forms of poetry in Ireland. It's kind of the mapping of poems and stories onto places that, predating epic poetry in the country, it's sort of the way in which you'd use poetry to kind of engage with an area. This led us to then think about a literary kind of application for StoryMap. And especially, I don't know if people are around Dublin now, there's a really amazing poetry scene happening that it's not kind of, well, it's kind of come in from America, this very much slam, aggressive poetry. It's not at all beret-wearing kind of thing. It's got a real vitality to it. So we just thought, right, if we can take that kind of energy and combine it with our project and see what we can get. So we approached Dublin UNESCO City of Literature then, who then gave us their backing to create a literary heritage kind of app, City of Words app, which will be released in February. And what we did with that is to combine 3 different kind of layers of literary heritage in Dublin. I'd kind of done a lot of camera work in different museums around Europe and stuff. And one of the things I always hated were literary museums. Like, I love literature, but I never got the point of them. I just thought it usually gave you a few facts about the person's life, and then that was it, really. It didn't show you how literature existed in the city, how it really, the author and city interacted. So we came up with this 3-layer City of Words app, which on the one hand, it's how the city shapes authors. So it's stories from the lives of different authors like Joyce, Kavanagh, Behan, and how kind of moments within the city or anecdotes kind of show an aspect of their character or help shape their actual destiny as authors. The other aspect is excerpts and new pieces from established authors. So we've kind of managed to snag a few kind of big name authors to contribute new pieces, or also to kind of read out excerpts from their own pieces. So Roddy Doyle contributed like an excerpt or a new piece about the Spire. And we're getting some of Pat McCabe and Dermot Healy and Paul Murray and a few others to kind of create just a kind of a sense of, well, yeah, their interpretations of different places. Then poems, we have this idea of a poem route through the city that almost like a poem for every street, that little kind of vignettes that kind of allow you to tap into what that street meant for a certain poet. So yeah, released next February 2013. Oh God, I'm kind of going on a bit. Grant. Oh no, there's only 2 left, Grant. The other thing that came up is, well, when we started this and we were thinking about doing historical stories, I don't know, with Dublin history, I used to always just think of, instantly, it was just 1916, the War of Independence, and then there was just this giant memory blank. The only thing I could vaguely remember from history was the Noel Brown Mother and Child Scheme, because I had to do an essay on it for the Leaving Cert. And that was the little blip of memory that came up. And then there was just like now. You know, it's sort of like 1916 to now, there's just blah. But as we went on, though, we suddenly found that actually that period was what became the most interesting, because it's the one that really got shoved to the side as the one where, because there's this really conservative mainstream, there's all these amazing countercultures and small histories going on that have their own. And I think the great thing is that we can kind of, through the internet, reclaim our own history now. We can begin to actually take back the history that was forgotten and kind of choose to remember. So, as I was saying earlier on, kind of the women's history of the city. So we're doing a story soon enough about Kathleen Lynn, the rebel during war, Easter Rising, and then went on to become really influential within the medical field in Dublin. the gay history, places like the catacombs in Fitzwilliam Square, which are meant to be just mental, where the main guy would just answer the door, Dickie Wynham, naked, and if you didn't run away, you were let in. And it was a place where, yeah, Kavanagh and Behan and all those kind of areas of that kind of bohemian, all those people within bohemian Dublin kind of came in on. And as we were thinking about all these, and the socialist history as well, the kind of left-wing history of Dublin that was sort of underground for a long time. But as we were thinking about these hidden histories, we were chatting at one point, another kind of fizzy moment happened where we were chatting to the comedian David O'Doherty, the little keyboard fella. And we were chatting about kind of getting a story off him. He was quite busy, so he couldn't. And he said, well, I'd love to do like an historical story, but one that's preferably not true. And that led us to the idea that one of the really untapped potentials of the tourist market is just their gullibility. You know, I mean, we have a captive audience of people who believe anything, really. And I mean, I'm the same when I go abroad. But why not just concoct new histories that just never happened? Complete hoax histories that we can just kind of tours around the city of just bizarre events that, because eventually these things people will start to think they're real. I mean, we've filmed a number of stories where the story definitely wasn't true, but over time it's just gotten accepted as true. I think we filmed one around Christchurch about a devil pig that attacked people for a long time. But then it turned out it was just a man in a pig suit.
I think it was just a man in a cape, actually.
Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, so our idea is to, over the next year, to get comedians together to concoct a new authentic history of the city and perhaps push it foremost to tourists as kind of the most authentic guide to Dublin and just see how it goes. So eventually as well, we're hoping to make a kind of bring in user-generated content that people can kind of upload and add their own stories. Because I suppose one idea we had lately is that everyone makes story maps in a sense, that we all mentally kind of associate memories and emotions with streets that we kind of, as we walk by, kind of think, oh, that's the place where I got sick in a bin one time, or that's where I met that girl, or that's where I broke up with that person, yeah, or that's where I last saw that person. They're kind of inevitably stories kind of congeal in our mind around basically certain places. So to try to tap into that, and so we can kind of pool everyone's stories and memories to create a whole vision of what the city actually means to the people who live in it. And as that shifts and changes. To pat ourselves in the back, we're just going to end it with the praise we've received. The nice thing is actually since it's launched, it has actually gotten like a nice bit of praise from all the major press and a good little kind of strong online following who've been building steadily. But yeah, online and offline press. So yeah, I hope you get a chance to check out the site, and thanks very much. Cool.